So take just a moment with us to sit back and reflect on how things used to be. No social media to update a status or to post a selfie. No technology to take the place of actual books and libraries.
A phone conversation meant you actually had to talk into something that was mounted on the wall. None of these. And listening to music meant firing up the old record player. Boy, have times changed.
Well, that's the premise of a new book called Growing Up Country, Rural Life in the 1950s and 1960s. It takes readers back to a lifestyle of an era like no other and explores some really unique Delmarva history and its impact on America as a whole. And we are tickled pink to have the book's author with us today, Everett Moore, who grew up in the Georgetown area of Sussex County. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Good afternoon. Nice to be here.
Okay, so I think the obvious first question is, what made you want to write this book?
Well, I am an attorney, and oftentimes I have clients in the office, and usually the first question is, where'd you get that accent? Because oftentimes people are moving into the area. And then I would tell them what life used to be like here and some history of the area. And a lot of the realtors and bankers are there say, Everett, you've got to write a book. So eventually I did.
And there's a lot of history in this book, but you say it's not really a history book.
No, it's not. It's really a lifestyle book. What it was like growing up in rural areas in America, and in particular Delmarva, back in the 50s and 60s.
Okay, so let's talk about what it was like. Let's talk about tools and recycling. You've got
Sure.
some pictures of tools.
Yes.
What is this?
Well, on the left is a fodder knife. Actually, it was originally used to cut fodder or corn stalks. And we often used it around the farm, cut weeds. The center tool is a weed whip. It's actually a sickle bar that was sharp on both edges, and you'd swing it back and forth to cut weeds and grass. And the one on the right is a hand sickle, so you could get close around mailbox posts, things like that, to cut the weeds.
All those been replaced with a weed whacker.
That's right. I refer to them as the weed whacker of my generation.
All right, you have another picture. These are of files. Tell us about these.
Actually, these are my father's files, and back at the time, we recycled everything. Now it's kind of a fad, the recycling, but we did it for economic reasons and people of that generation. When a handle broke on something, went out and got a corn cob stuck on the end of the file. That was the new handle for the files. You know, when clothing wore out, you took the buttons off, put the buttons in a button jar, ripped up the clothing. They went into rag rugs later. If shoes wore out, the leather was used to make hinges for things. Dad, even when he tore down buildings, besides just saving the lumber, actually saved the nails and would put them in a bucket or a coal scuttle. And at times he'd say, boys, you're not busy right now. Why don't you go out and straighten those nails? And literally we would straighten nails.
Do you know how many people right now are saying, I remember that?
Yeah,
that's right.
Well, here's something else we might remember. Take a look at this real quick and tell us what this is.
That is a crock, and that was actually for watering what we refer to in Delmarva as biddies. Some areas refer to the young chickens as chicks.
Right.
We referred to them as biddies. We had enough of those to water 42,500 chicks. I remember that number very well because I had to fill enough to water all of those. And it's a two-piece crock. The top part, which is a gallon jug, you turn it upside down, filled it with water, then you put the lid on top and flipped it over. And no matter how practiced you were, from that little hole at the bottom of that, you would get soaked. And oftentimes it would be 90 degrees where you watered the biddies, and then outside it might be below freezing. You would come out to get you know, out of the heat, and then you would catch a cold from, you know, back and forth.
That's
right.
Now, Delmarva plays a big part in America's history, everything from skin cream to books. Tell us about that.
Well, there was the book, The Little Engine That Could. Most people don't realize there's a Delmarva connection. And actually the family, the Fawcett family, Massey's Landing, just east of Millsboro, Delaware, their grandmother actually wrote the book. Her name was Frances Ford. She wrote it, she was in Chicago, and she actually worked for Carl Sandburg at the time. And when she wrote the book, it was actually a Sunday school lesson called The Little Pony Engine. And she was not given credit for it. She was a female. The publisher took credit. And then she had a cousin start fighting for her rights in later years. And when she was 102, that's when she died. A year later, the first book was published with her name on it.
Is that right?
Yes.
Now, what about Noxema?
Noxema has a local connection too. There was a Dr. Bunting from the Berlin Ocean City area, And he developed this, and it was actually called No Eczema Skin Cream. And it was a sunburn ointment as well. And he had big visions for this, so he went to his brother-in-law, Mr. Townsend, who lived more in the Ocean View area, and asked for financing, and they financed it, and it became a big company.
How
Who
about
knew?
that?
All right.
Yes.
So Wilson Store played a big part in
Yes.
your own personal history. Tell us about that.
Yes, a couple ways. One, Wilson Store is was my father's one-room schoolhouse, and it had moved in several locations in our neighborhood. And it was a store we'd stop to in between farm chores, get a soft drink. Notice I say soft drink,
Yeah.
not soda
Not
or
soda.
pop.
Okay.
You know, for Sussex County, it was soft drinks. And you get that and maybe a sandwich, and listen to the old timers talking about how much more it snowed back then, or how much more rain they had, or who had the best crops, and those kind of things.
You even mentioned WBOC in your book.
Oh, absolutely. WBOC, we were tickled to death when the station started, because before that, it was always nice to have a younger sibling to stay at the TV and keep turning the knob for the
rotator,
antenna,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
also the vertical and horizontal hold. But BOC became the go-to station. This is the station we watch on Delmarva. And here on the screen is a picture of, I believe it was Mr. Abbott, and this was in 1962 election coverage. Notice the metal desk, two phones. No big graphics on the board that we normally see. And I remember John B. Greenberger as being the go-to guy at BOC TV. And of course there was Ralph Pennywell that was the weatherman here. And, but it was basically just a big metal desk in the center of the floor.
Wow. Growing Up Country, that's the name of the book, Rural Life in the 1950s and 1960s. Everett Moore, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And if you would like to learn more about the book, its author, or where you can pick up a copy, go to delmarvalife.com and click on the show tab.
Still ahead on Delmarva Life, got granite. Many people have it in their homes, but others may think it's out of their price range. You might be surprised to find out otherwise. We're going to learn more.
And later, it's one of the most successful productions in the world. From London to Hollywood, Les Mis has had audiences coming back for more. Now, it's coming to Delmarva. Find out when and where you can see it.
But first, the Waterfowl Festival in Easton is coming up November 8th through the 10th, and we are giving away tickets. We're going to announce a winner of 2 tickets every weekday through November 6th.
To enter, just go to delmarvalife.com, click on the show tab at the left side of the page, then select the contest tab located on the right side and fill out the form. Good luck!
And while we're at it, we'd like to say congratulations to today's winner, April Andrew of Easton. April, enjoy that festival.